Hello and welcome to Wednesday Warfare, where I review NXT and AEW Dynamite back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. And as I always say, like what you like, don't be a dick. T-shirts available now at prowrestlingtees.com/wrestlingwithregret. NXT begins with the Undisputed Era. Of course, Adam Cole is the last champion standing in the group. He does gloat about his title victory over Tommaso Ciampa this past Sunday in Portland. Then Roderick Strong's about to talk about his match with the Velveteen Dream coming up at the end of the night. But then the Dream's disembodied voice plays over the arena and tells Roddy to leave his friends backstage and do this match for Marina. And then Roderick basically says Dream's a dead man. And that's pretty much it. Not much to say about the opening promo. It's fairly straightforward. I was kind of hoping for a bit more boasting and more bombast on Adam Cole's part. He is the leader and everything. He's the one who still has the championship. But yeah, pretty straightforward to set up the main event. First match of the night for the Cruiserweight Championship as Jordan Devlin takes on Lio Rush. Rush beat Angel Garza last week to become the #1 contender. This is a hard-fought match. Lots of good back and forth. Devlin working over Leo's midsection and everything. But the action really does pick up near the end. The ramping up of the high spots. Lio almost wins with a Avalanche Poison Rana, but there's a rope break. Devlin is able to capitalize and hit his side suplex, which I just learned tonight is called the Devlin Side, to win and retain the title. So yeah, really good match and a good showcase for both guys. Backstage, the new interview guy wants to know what's the relationship between Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, the woman who helped Dakota beat Tegan Nox in the street fight this past Sunday at TakeOver. Raquel basically explains that these two are kindred spirits. They're two ladies who have been passed over multiple times for opportunities by other women who they believed weren't as worthy. So they're taking the bull by the horns at this point. They're going to stand side by side. And Dakota chimes in saying they're untouchable. In comes GM William Regal, who announces that in 2 weeks Dakota will be facing Tegan Nox yet again in a steel cage, ideally to prevent Raquel from interfering. Spoiler alert, it's probably going to happen anyway. But either way, I'm really excited about that matchup. I loved the street fight on Sunday, so seeing them in a cage, I can't wait. We get some post-match Portland footage of Rhea Ripley talking about how Charlotte beat her down at the end of the match and accepted the challenge for WrestleMania. And Rhea says, I don't care what she does to me because I got what I wanted, and at WrestleMania she'll find out even queens get nightmares. We then see Austin Theory make his way to the ring, but we don't find out who his opponent is because in power walks Tommaso Ciampa, who's got something very important to say. He grabs the microphone and even warns Austin, not tonight, don't mess with me. So basically he says his piece and he says, I was so obsessed with trying to get Goldie back, I lost focus of my surroundings, including Johnny Gargano. I should have known that something was up when we had this surprise team up again at Worlds Collide. He says, I know why Johnny did it, and so does Johnny. Austin can't leave well enough alone. He tries to intervene, and Ciampa punches him in the mouth, and then basically goes back to the camera, resuming his promo, and saying that, in order for me to get Goldie back, Gargano must no longer be a part of NXT, which is a very insidious thing to say, but he's the babyface in this situation. Anyway, then he beats up Theory some more. He throws him repeatedly into the barricades because, again, Austin just cannot just stay down. So we have a match with them for next week between Ciampa and Theory. Should be a good one. We heard Ciampa's side of the story after what happened at TakeOver, so now we await for Johnny wrestling. Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza, two guys who've been fighting each other on 205 Live as of late. They're teaming up on this night to take on the grizzled young veterans, James Drake and Zach Gibson. It's a pretty short academic match. Raul Mendoza gets taken out with a ticket to mayhem, and so the established tag team easily defeats the upstart tag team here. And then afterward, Gibson on the microphone, he trashes the USA, and he basically says that we're on our way to make ourselves the #1 team in the world. I can't think of too many acts in NXT right now who get some promo time literally after every match they're in. I think so far, the Grizzled Young Vets and Zach Gibson specifically have been getting mic time after every match they've been on NXT regular for the last couple of months, and I like it. Keep it going. The Broserweights come out to celebrate their tag team championship win, and Matt Riddle talking about the partying they all did after they won in Portland, and this great line where he says, the trophy, it got suspended for a wellness violation, and so it's gone for 30 days, which is just hilarious. The fact that he's treating the trophy as a real third member of the team, this anthropomorphic being, basically. Anyway, they're taking on Lorcan and Birch, Team CAW. Haven't seen those guys on NXT in forever. It's kind of crazy to think about this time last year, they were really in the thick of it, really in the hunt for the tag team championships, and now there's kind of an afterthought on NXT. I know they're doing stuff on 205 Live, but we do see a lot of, going back and forth between both shows. So kind of surprised we haven't seen them in really a lot of action action. They've kind of, thrown to the back burner in the wake of a lot of their tag teams right now at NXT. Anyway, this is a good match. If you like strikes and submissions, and oh boy, these four guys will give that to you in spades. It's a really physical matchup. It ends when the Broserweights win, naturally, but it's a good showcase for the new tag team champions against a very competent team. We get a Twitter promo from the Forgotten Sons backstage. Steve Cutler got a haircut recently, so now I can tell him and Wesley Blake apart finally. Anyway, they take umbrage with Zach Gibson's incendiary comments about the US of A earlier in the night, so they announce they're going to fight them at some point on behalf of America. All I can say is I hope that the fans will care more about these guys than they're seemingly baby faces. I don't know how long that's going to last, but if they're fighting for America, obviously they're going to be the baby faces here. They're veterans and whatnot, so I think this is kind of like an experiment running them face. And like I said before, it's really hard to get a foothold on NXT as a heel stable when the Undisputed Era is taking up all the airtime and all the market for heel stables. So maybe turning the Forgotten Sons face is a good idea. The North American champion Keith Lee is in action. He's about to talk on the microphone when he's cut off by his opponent, only NXT's finest, Kona Reeves. Haven't seen hide nor hair of him in what feels like an eternity. Anyway, Kona's about to talk on the microphone himself. He gets pounced by Lee. The match begins. Big Bang catastrophe. The match ends. Nice seeing you, Kona. So see you again in another few months, I guess. Anyway, after the match, Dominik Dijakovic shows up and says, "I'm not ready to move on after Portland. I was this close to beating you, but I hurt my back on the Spanish Fly." Keith Lee says, "You're just making excuses," and the fans chant "fight forever." And so Lee says, "Okay, if you can talk Regal into it, let's have another match and fight forever." You know what? After what we saw in Portland, I am totally open to that. 2 weeks ago, Kayden Carter scored her first victory at NXT with an upset over Chelsea Green, who has just debuted with the Robert Stone brand. So this is the rematch and what Stone has announced the relaunch of said brand. A couple of minutes in, Bianca Belair just runs into the ring and cuts a promo, and everyone's okay with this apparently. They're just gonna stop the action so Bianca can say her piece, which seems kind of weird. But anyway, Bianca basically calls out Charlotte Flair, saying, "Doesn't matter if it's here or anywhere else, I'm gonna whoop your ass." She walks off, and then the match resumes, and then Chelsea's able to ultimately win with what they call the Unprettier, but it's not the Unprettier. It's a different position of it. So Chelsea finally wins her match. Good for her, good match, but the interruption was weird, and get a new finisher, or go back to using the original version of it. Main event time, Roderick Strong taking on the Velveteen Dream. It's been 5 months since the last time we saw the Dream in action, so it's a big welcome return for him. And of course, it's also a grudge match, going back to their history, fighting for the North American Championship, made even more personal by Dream's bringing in of Roderick's wife and son into the equation. I love the fact that this is a grudge match, and Strong has repeatedly said that Dream's a dead man, but he's got to get his pose in for his entrance. The match begins with a lot of cat and mouse action. Ultimately, things break down, start on the outside, and it becomes more back and forth. A really great match here. I love the physicality and the animosity that Roderick's showing here, just trying to fight for his family and everything. And yeah, it's a really good story told. One point near the end, Dream peels back his top layer to reveal the custom tights. This time it's got Marina Shafir airbrushed on the front and the back. Oh, the disrespect. He dives onto the rest of the Undisputed Era who are hanging outside, and he's able to actually put Strong away for the 3 count after a second Dream Valley driver. Immediately after the match, though, the rest of the Undisputed Era run in and just beat the hell out of the Dream. He's got no one to come out and help him, so it's 4-on-1, beat down, and the Undisputed Era stand tall at the end. Even though Velveteen Dream got the win, he is the one left laying at the end of the night. So I'm just wondering, where do we go from here? Where will this feud escalate? How will it escalate? How long are they going to stretch this thing out for? Are we waiting until Tampa for a resolution? Are they going to be fighting each other by Tampa? Really, who knows what this future will hold, but nevertheless, it's a great return for the Velveteen Dream. I know I've been missing him on NXT for the last 5 months. Glad to see him back, and this is a great first really big feud for him to sink his teeth into. So hopefully we'll see where things go from there.
Levi Shapiro here, the longest reigning Wrestling with Regret champion. I'll be strolling into Tampa, Florida in April just to prove one thing, that I'm truly timeless.
Dynamite opens up this week with a tag team battle royal to see who will face the champions for the titles at Revolution. Early in the match, we see Evil Uno and the person who does the Dark Order infomercials. I don't think he's ever been given a name yet, but they are at ringside and they distract SCU in the ring, and then that allows SCU to be eliminated. But then Alex Reynolds and John Silver, my mistake, they get taken out soon after that. And so then we see Strongheart be eliminated as well, and Shima is offered a Dark Order mask, and he's definitely thinking about it. And also behind the Dark Order, we just see Raven just sitting there, hanging out as a fan. He's enjoying the show. Good to see him there. There's a cool face-off in the middle of the match between Luchasaurus and the Butcher. Trent is saved by Orange Cassidy, who pops up from out of nowhere. He just catches Trent on his shoulders and walks around with him for a bit. He does get kicked in the dick by the Bunny later on, though. It ends with, it's basically the last three guys in the ring are Proud and Powerful, and then Matt Jackson all by himself because Nick got eliminated. And through hell and high water, Matt was able to persevere, eliminate the other two members of the Inner Circle, and Sammy Guevara, who ran in for good measure. So he wins, and so now the Young Bucks are the new #1 contenders. A really fun opening battle royal. Women's action up next as Chris Statlander takes on Shanna, who's rocking some Dragon Ball inspired gear tonight. Britt Baker is joining the guys on commentary, and she takes some more shots at Tony Schiavone in the meantime. Brings him a cup of coffee with like his face on the Starbucks logo, and his name is misspelled. That's a pretty brilliant move. Also, that Schiavone coffee logo, I would not be surprised if that turns into a shirt very, very soon. This is a really entertaining matchup, by the way. These two are just great in the ring together, really good chemistry. Statlander wins with the Big Bang Theory, and Britt I thought was semi-effective on commentary here. At times I thought she was speaking too quietly to even be audible, but the match itself was really good stuff. Then poor Tony Schiavone interviews the new women's champion Nyla Rose, aka Val Venus' favorite wrestler. Nyla, I don't know if this is her first promo ever on Dynamite or her first in a very long time, because I can't remember the last time she spoke for a sustained period of time on television since AEW started. But anyway, in her promo, she talks about how, Riho was courageous, but I am powerful, and I cut the strings last week. She's offended at the reception she got from the fans on this night, and she says, I'm going to be a one-time champion because nobody can beat me. Solid stuff in the promo from Nyla here. Then Chris Statlander, who we just saw, she shows back up and boops the belt, and then out comes Big Swole, and she gets in Nyla's face, and then the referees and officials pull it apart and everything. I thought it was a good little segment because it really shows, they're showing you the new competition that's blowing wide open now for the Women's Championship with Nyla as champion. So some fresh opponents for the champ here. Jon Moxley in action against Geoff Cobb, making his AEW in-ring debut as the hired gun for the Inner Circle. And speaking of the Inner Circle, we see Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Jake Hager showing up to sit in the front row with tickets. I'm like, why do they have tickets, and why are they sitting in the front row? We've established in several past weeks that Jericho and the Inner Circle can get a skybox wherever they go, whenever they go. So them sitting in the crowd I thought was a little weird. And also in this matchup, Taz is the guest commentator as well, because he knows a thing or two about stocky, strong boys who like to throw suplexes. Anyway, in this matchup, Cobb is very aggressive in the early going against Moxley, but John is very resourceful. He starts working Cobb's leg. The match ends when Cobb hits a big superplex, but he keeps his legs up. Moxley hooks the leg. By hook or by crook, he's able to pull a fast one and beat Cobb for the 3 count, and Jeff's in shock. I guess now we know why the Inner Circle was in the front row, because it minimized the time to get from their seats to the ring to beat up Moxley after the fact. And so, everyone's beating up on Moxley. Out comes Dustin Rhodes to try and help, but he gets beaten down. The lights cut out, and then we see Darby Allin showing up, and the crowd in Atlanta goes nuts for Darby. He skateboards down. I think his gimmick, he'd be a lot differently received if he was roller skating down to the ring. But anyway, he skateboards down to the ring, and he's a house of fire, beating everyone up with the skateboard, including Sammy Guevara. Then we see Moxley and Jericho brawl for a bit, but then Jericho bails. That's pretty much where it ends. I think it was a good segment, a good match. I think Moxley getting beaten up but being clever was a good way to protect both himself and Geoff Cobb, who I don't think is going to be hurting from this matchup here. I mean, I'm just happy to see him get that opportunity and get that time to shine on AEW. Love seeing Geoff in action, and it's cool to see him get that moment there. And also just the reception that Darby Allin got. I mean, that guy has star quality written all over him. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega defend their tag team championships up next against the Lucha Brothers, who are the only team who have pinned Page and Omega on AEW. I loved this match. There's so much going on. There's wall-to-wall action throughout, insane high flying near the end. Everyone's in the air at this point. It's a really exciting match, and the crowd was definitely just full-throated into it. They were just really in awe of this match here. We do get a miscue with the buckshot by Page to Omega, but like last last time we saw that happen, it does not cost them the match. Paige, or Omega, I should say, is able to kick out of the Penta driver. We get some more wild kickouts, a very smooth build to the V-trigger buckshot combo, and Paige and Omega win. What a great match. We get a moment where the Young Bucks show up because they're the #1 contenders, they're elite buddies, and they're going to be fighting at the pay-per-view. We get this moment where Omega is literally getting pulled in two directions by the Young Bucks and Adam Page before we go to commercial break. But I'm really curious to see how they're going to build that tension next week, how they're going to tell that story at the pay-per-view. Can't wait for that match. This part of the show is not going to factor into the overall score, but it is worth addressing and talking about. They announced on Dynamite that there's going to be a new line of AEW action figures come out later this year. They showed the prototypes for Chris Jericho and Cody and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Brandy Rhodes. I thought they looked great, except maybe for Brandy's. I think that was the one that least looked like the real person, but they've always had a hard time getting women action figures right, I feel, in all of wrestling. I've never seen a female action figure that actually looks like the person they're supposed to be. It doesn't matter what company it is either. But anyway, it's really cool they got the toy deal. You know you've made it when you have a toy deal. Think of how long it took ECW to get action figures, how long it took Impact to get action figures, and a little more than a year into their existence, AEW's got some action figures coming out later this year. You'll love to see it. Then it's time for the main event, the first ever steel cage match in AEW history as Cody takes on Wardlow. It is the final step Cody has to take on MJF at Revolution. A big test for Wardlow too, because it's his in-ring debut in AEW against one of the heads of the company in a steel cage match in the main event, so holy shit, no pressure, am I right? Also, I'm really impressed with the structure of the cage, the setup. Just looking at it, it is designed for crazy stuff to happen on that cage. So I was looking at that cage and I could just imagine all the crazy stuff you will see, like the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers and the Jurassic Express and Private Party, the crazy stuff, and Darby Allin, the things these guys will do to themselves jumping off that cage in the years to come. I mean, I can't wait for that. But obviously about this match, also a cool little rule here, escaping the cage is not a factor. You can only win by pinfall or submission, which is always really nice. Anyway, Wardlow does a lot of no-selling early on. He's a very tough guy, and he's making Cody bleed early on, really beating him around, throwing him around the cage, hither and yon and stuff. At one point, the door gets knocked open, and like Cody's right there, and MJF's telling Arn to slam the door into Cody's face like you did to his daddy, and Arn just like hits MJF with it, which is pretty funny. Then later on, MJF's climbing the cage from the outside, and Brandy like hits him with a chair, and it just kind of annoys him, and they're facing off. Arn just throws MJF over the barricade. Wardlow kicks out of the crossroads, then Cody climbs the cage, does a big-ass moonsault off the big-ass cage onto Wardlow. Oh my God, that looked absolutely insane. And Cody wins. He wins with the big-ass moonsault. And so now Cody and MJF is officially on for Revolution. What a wild way to end that show. What a cage match. And also the camera work they had afterwards, showing the big crane shot of Cody on the cage. That was a beautiful shot. But yeah, great, exciting way to end the show.
Hey! What the hell do you want?
Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, NXT or AEW Dynamite. It was Dynamite this week, folks. No contest. I feel they've been getting stronger and stronger every week, really coming into their own, finding their groove, just building momentum every single week, and it's been some of the strongest stuff they've had in their entire run. And I would argue, I said it last week and I'll say it again, this episode was the best episode of Dynamite I've seen in a long time. They really just, everything clicked, I think. I think all the matches, I was invested in it. I think the reaction from the crowd really tells you the story of how people are reacting to these stories. Here's the thing. Atlanta, as a city, as a fandom, has seen some shit with their wrestling, the good and the bad. And so when you've got that kind of performance out there you had on Wednesday, and the fans are just constantly into it and enjoying it, then how can you say this company's going to be dead in a year? And how can you say this company's killing the business? As far as what I liked about NXT this week, I enjoyed the tag team match with the Broserweights and Lorcan and Birch. I liked the Dream versus Strong match. I also like the fact they're trying different things. Again, the overlapping of the talent and different things, way to maximize the time they have. Having Bianca Belair interrupt and having Tommaso Ciampa run into Austin Theory's match. I do think the two segments were a bit samey though, kind of similar flavors, so maybe don't put them on the same episode. But the biggest problem I have with NXT this week was nothing felt really important. Nothing felt like you were learning anything. It was a show that took no risks. Why would you have 2 enhancement matches on this show? And obviously you can't predict what AEW is going to do, but they announced their card pretty well in advance, and you see what's on their card, and you're going to have like these squash matches with Keith Lee and Kona Reeves. Like, who wants that when you've got Jeff Cobb and Jon Moxley tearing the house down on AEW? It just makes no sense to me. Or, the Lucha Brothers and Paige and Omega. Compared to Broserweights versus Lorcan and Birch, those two can't be compared. I know, I'm kind of rambling here. I'm giving you my reasons, but I do believe AEW was the better episode this week. And again, I'm still open-minded. I'm not going to say, oh, NXT is always bad. I've never said that. But I'm just saying right now, AEW has the momentum. But let me know what you thought about NXT and AEW this week in the comment section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.